Hey guys, thanks for joining us on our very first WBH Live meeting. WBH Live, we're actually meeting on Google Meet, and going forward, there'll be a chance for you guys to join us at the next meeting. We'll talk about that at the end. This meeting today, we have a very special guest. It's Joel Beal. Joel is one of the largest licensees in the We Buy Houses program. He owns a lot of Texas, and so he'll talk a little bit about that. Joel's been doing this for years and has a lot of expertise, and we're going to dig into kind of what he's thinking about right now in 2024 with his business. I also got my co-host Mike Van Norden, who is our director of business development here, who will be joining us. Say hi, Mike.
Hey, everybody. Looking forward to this inaugural show. So great start, Deb. That was a great introduction. Right. Exciting to hear from Mr. Joel Beal, real estate extraordinaire, very knowledgeable guy. So yeah. Buckle your seatbelts.
And so with that, I'm going to turn it over. Hey, Joel, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good, Deb.
Well, we kind of talked before about 4 questions. Let me see if I have my questions. Just so that people kind of have a little bit of a sense of agenda. Hold on. I'm not clicking on the right spot. There we go. These were the questions. You have a very interesting and I think fascinating model for kind of how you guys figure out what to offer. One of the things that I think a lot of people want to know from each other is kind of what's different now. What are you doing different to now, say, compared to 2 years ago? Things have changed a lot. What data, this is something that's always fascinated me about you, Joel. What data do you watch to get an idea of what's happening and how you might adjust your strategies? And then just kind of curious if you're seeing more happening around foreclosures. And so those are the 4 questions that we had kind of teed up with you. And let me stop that. I'm just going to bring Joel. Let's see. I need to get to... As you talk, Joel, I'm going to try to figure out how to get you to go full screen. I'm not seeing the right button. I'll figure this out. But Joel, just jump into it. Tell the guys a little bit about yourself, and then let's kind of jump into that first question about kind of how do you compute an offer? What are your secrets for that?
Yeah, well, Deb, it's good to talk to you again. You know, we're not that far from each other. We even live in the same town, and we work probably 20 miles from each other, and I just never get to talk to you. So this is great. Glad to be here.
Every time we talk, we should invite people.
Yeah, well, I learn something every time I talk to you guys, but I love working with We Buy Houses guys and gals. You know, every one of them's good people, and just thanks for letting me be here. So I got my first rental in 1992, and you know, just did what a lot of people did, which is build up one a year. And then you fast forward and the job is gone in '08. I had a pretty good job for a long time, like many of us did. And then it's gone. And in '08, I got my license, and come to find out, just because you get your license, people don't come flocking to you. So I started actively flipping houses about that time. And I joined We Buy Houses in 2020. And so I've got a business partner, Will Roddy, who's actually out in the field working today. But yeah, we love being part of the family.
Well, let's kind of jump into your process. I mean, that's kind of really what we're getting to. Whether those were the right or best questions, you know, because I know that you had an interesting model kind of for how you guys figured out what a property's worth, what you're going to offer, that kind of thing. Can you kind of walk us through your process a little bit on how you value a property?
Yeah, and I bet it's very, very similar to what other people, because I recognize a lot of the names on this call here, and we've been to masterminds before. A bunch of us in Vegas with a few months ago. That was fun. But I bet a lot of us do it pretty much the same, but it all starts with the AVM, or ARV rather, the after repair value. What's this house going to be worth when we're done with it? And you can only get that by looking at the comps. And you look at the comps, and there's a whole, different people run comps in different ways, but clearly you have to either be a licensed real estate agent or an unlicensed assistant to a real estate agent, or have access to MLS data somehow, the real MLS data, or have an agent you trust doing it for you, because it just has to be done a certain way or you get bad data. So we look at the comps for that neighborhood, for that house, and we look at days on market, the median days on market, not average, but median, and then the repair value, the estimated repair value. Will and I have built a pretty elaborate spreadsheet that isn't that elaborate. Actually, we simplified it, but we've built a spreadsheet based on 10, 12, 15 years of doing this that has, in fact, I'm looking at one right now, we have about 65 different things that we look at on a house. So it's after repair value times the discount factor minus estimated repairs. That's our offer. And the discount factor is based solely upon our estimated time of ownership, which is days on market plus time to repair. So that's our model, and it's never changed. Since 2012, it's never changed. Not even a little before that, but since 2012, certainly it has never changed. But the values that float, of course, is ARV goes up and down with the market. Days on market goes longer and shorter based on the market. And estimated repair costs, lately, Will's had to go in monthly and adjust those costs, with supply chain and inflation. But it's still just three numbers.
Do you, what can you share about kind of like, what did you mention about 65 factors or something like that? You said there are a whole bunch of things that you guys consider.
We're looking at, we just start. So the way we do it is, imagine walking around a house on the outside, and I hate to be super specific about it, but around the outside in a counterclockwise motion, if at all possible, because if you vary, you'll miss something. So, the first thing we look at is foundation, roof, exterior paint, siding, soffit, the HVAC, those things that you can tell on the outside. And we also take pictures looking across the street, up the street, down the street, then across the street looking in, because we grade the neighborhood from 0 to 5 based on how good we think the neighborhood is. And then we walk inside. And as we walk inside, we're looking at bathroom, kitchen, bedrooms. And then we do a deep dive into the bedroom or the bathrooms and the kitchen with specifically what we're going to do: flooring, paint, popcorn, electrical, plumbing. So basically we make a lap around the house on the outside, we make a lap around the house on the inside. And most of these numbers are just calculated with square foot. How big is the house? That's how much paint you need. That's how much flooring you need. So it really doesn't take too long to fill out the numbers. It takes way longer to talk to the people than it does just to fill out the numbers. And when we show up, and I bet you every We Buy Houses guy out there does it the same way. When we show up, we know what the ARV is. We drive the neighborhood to make sure we didn't make a mistake, but we know it. And we know the days on market. So all we need is to fill out the repairs. And usually our buyer who handles that on the phone, she gets videos and pictures from the people calling us to make sure that our estimated price is in the ballpark. So we're almost never surprised. We'll look at a house yesterday, and our estimated price and my real price was less than $1,000 difference. So we usually show up knowing what we're getting into, which gives us more time to talk to the people and less time messing with a spreadsheet.
So is it, you mentioned a buyer going out, is kind of from a team perspective, do you have somebody going out with this checklist? It's looking through the house. Are you guys doing it, and is it a checklist? I know that, in the past, I think you may have had when you were with Homevestors, I think they had like a Home Depot app or some kind of app that they had where they would actually use. I'm curious about that. Is there value to having, something to help evaluate the property, like a tablet with an application running on it, or is it really just basically going out there and, kind of with a checklist of things you want to look at? And does it need to be a sophisticated thing, or can it just be a piece of paper?
Will walks through a property and scratches his head and grunts a little bit, and he's within $500 of me, and I've got my laptop and everything. So it's whatever works. When Lisa goes out, sometimes she'll like to print this out and just carry it on a clipboard. I like to walk around, take pictures, and then just pound it into a laptop real quick. Google Sheets are a little clumsy on a phone, but you can use them on a phone too, especially a bigger phone like I have. So there's ways of doing it. It doesn't matter how you do it. As far as the Homevestor app goes, and I'm not even sure they have it anymore, but it was really helpful. This is the same principle. It's the exact same principle. And again, probably the same worksheet most of us in the We Buy Houses family uses, maybe different format, different model, but as long as it gets the job done, the important thing is, if it fits the box, this is a house we should buy. And if it doesn't fit the box, this is not a house we should buy. And the number's the number. And, maybe we're the best deal for a seller, and maybe we're not. And the best deal is not always money. Sometimes it is, sometimes it's not. So we produce a net sheet when we fill all this out, and it tells us the information of what the potential net would be to the seller if they sold it retail, sold it to us, or fixed it and sold it themselves. And but again, sometimes it's not money. I mean, I have sold houses for less than what I could have gotten from retail just for a time and hassle. And I'm a pro at this. Most of us probably trade in our cars rather than put them out on Facebook Marketplace. Why is that? Because it's worth $3,000 not to have to deal with it. And we see that a lot too, especially in like probate situations where a family member has passed. Someone who's the executor is charged with selling this house, and their first job is to not make a mistake, because if they make a mistake, they look bad in front of the family. So the brand, the We Buy Houses brand, gives them comfort that Joe's house buyers or house buying sharks or flipping Texas or whatever the name is, we give them a little bit of comfort so that they feel better about their decision, and they feel less likely that they're making a mistake. But, then again, too, when you have to get 4 siblings to agree on something, sometimes even if you can get an extra $20,000 fixing it and selling it, you're not going to get agreement 6 months down the road. Again, we can't pretend we know the answers. We just have to give the information out and let them make the best decision.
Yeah. Let's kind of shift to, there was one other question I want to ask you because you mentioned it. Do you give the sellers that net sheet that shows buying it, listing it, whatever the options were that you have?
If I could make a request, I love the idea of doing these weekly meetings. I think they're great, Deb. I would love to hear from the better salespeople within our family how they handle this, because it's kind of the classic question. I mean, I'd love to hear Mike Van Noorden talk about it. I see Igor from Phillies. I see a bunch of people I know. I'd love to hear how they handle this, because you want to be transparent with the seller. But if you give them too much information they don't understand, you're actually being counterproductive, and you're giving them less information they can use. And it's really how much. So to answer your question, the way I do it, if Lisa or me or Will or Claudia or whoever's buying the house, if we perceive that this seller wants options and can handle options, can understand it, I'll share it with you. Why not? Because they've all got phones. They've all got Zillow apps, Redfin, Trulia apps. They all know what houses are going for in the neighborhood. This is not a secret to most people. Yeah, I'll share it. But if it's clear that I called WeBuyHouses.com to sell my house. Give me a number.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'll give you a number. So I really take the lead from the seller. So sometimes yes, but usually no.
I know you guys, you have a big area, and so you could get a call from somebody that's a 2-hour drive away. Do you request them to send you photos and things, and do you have success with that?
That's a good question. Here's how we're doing it today. And again, another topic that would be great for another mastermind. I'd love to hear how others are doing this. Currently, what we're doing, because we have such a large area, is yes, whoever is handling the inbound phone call is asking for basic information on a house. We have a CRM that's actually been produced by another We Buy Houses licensee, and works great. We love it. So in our CRM, we have the questions to ask and the order in which to ask them. So you just got to sit there. How old's your roof? How's your hot water heater? Send me some pictures. Here's what I want, and here's how I want it to look. Text them or email them to me. Don't care how you get them to me. And for us, it works very good. They're generally very cooperative, but do understand that our territory is a lot of smaller towns, smaller cities, where we have less competition, and people tend to have a little more patience. I don't think we would be as successful if we was in, say, Houston trying this. In other words, some people really expect someone to be on their doorstep this afternoon to look at the house. And if that's the case, then they're not going to want to send us pictures. And then our buyer has to make a decision. Is it worth the drive to go do this for a house that we may not even be in the ballpark? Mm-hmm. Currently, we're asking for pictures. Currently, we're getting them. Currently, this is working quite well for us.
Yeah, that's nice.
And so I want to interject something here, Dev, in that what Joel says is really important about leveraging the brand. Hey, I'm here with WeBuyHouses.com, and just using that status, because a confused mind never buys, right? So the more you confuse them and the more you throw at them, you're much better off just leveraging that brand. And if they mention other offers or this and that, just say, well, yeah, you can get other offers, but we are WeBuyHouses.com, and we can make sure this deal consummate, that type thing. So I think it's great that you're leveraging the brand like that, and throwing too much at a seller could really confuse them. And then that opens up a million other questions that could kill the deal. So I think the, KISS principle, keep it simple.
Yeah. We could go way down that trail, and I would love to do that. But to keep it on a time limit, because I think process, like everybody, I think a lot of investors feel like if you said, do you have the best process? They might say, I don't really know. It's just my process, and I haven't really compared it to other people's process to know if mine's good or not, But I'm always I'm impressed with the level of detail that you guys kind of cover in yours. I wanted to get into a topic. It's kind of like, okay, here we are in 2024. You've been doing this for a long time. You've been with us for a number of years now, through kind of the hot, peak part of the market, 2.9% interest rates. Everybody was selling, and it was crazy. And then we went through the interest rate hikes, and now we're sitting here in 2024, hoping that they're going to drop rates. And you and I have talked a million times about that. Who knows what they're going to do, when they're going to do it. But you're always kind of in the reality that you're in. And sitting here in 2024, I guess one of my questions would be, what's different, do you think, than 2 years ago? Different in like how people are willing to sell, or what your offers might be, or whatever. What do you think is different in 2024?
Well, from a numbers perspective, in our area, which is North Texas and East Texas, days on market is tremendously longer. Surprisingly, the price hasn't dropped much. Again, real estate's very local. We all know that. So it's a zip code by zip code, subdivision by subdivision thing. We all know that. But in general, In North Texas and East Texas, prices have dropped a little bit. The price and cohort, kind of depends on how much they've dropped. Some of the lower price houses have actually gone up, believe it or not. But the days on market is longer. The only question is how much longer, but significantly longer. So, and by significant, I mean there's neighborhoods and comps we've run where days on market was 5 or 6. Now it's 48. You look at it and go, well, it's only 40 days. Well, it's true, but if you got 15 houses in your pipeline, that's 40 times 15. Now all of a sudden you got yourself a bit of a, constriction in your funnel there. So the numbers have changed for sure. And that's all I know. Everything else is just opinion. But opinions, I see a lot of people that just really aren't interested in selling right now because of their interest rate. That's pretty obvious. I hear from a lot of people that are feeling squeezed. They can't really make their payments. Foreclosure is imminent, but they really don't want to give up that cheap interest rate. But it almost doesn't matter because houses aren't selling that fast anyway. And then there's still a lot of people. And I just talked to a guy yesterday who's a friend of mine and a financial professional. And he made the comment, well, I'd buy a house now, but, I just don't want to be bidding above ask. And I said, man, that's 2-year-old knowledge, man. It's not that way anymore. So a lot of people still believe it's a hot market for everybody else, but they see themselves locked in personally. So it's a little bit of and look, it doesn't make it any better when you go to social media and the internet and you look and you only see the best side of everybody and everything. Every real estate agent's Facebook page is full of, fast moving houses, and that's all you see. But the numbers are the numbers. I'm sure they're the same nationwide, and perception is just a bit of, I don't know what I'm going to do, so I'm probably not going to do anything.
Yeah. Is it hard to find a deal now? Easier, harder, about the same as 2 years ago?
Well, the number of people contacting us has certainly dropped. Mm-hmm. And you would expect that. I mean, home sales have dropped significantly. We, as professional distressed home buyers, we represent a small portion of that market. So clearly when the overall market drops, you can't expect our business to stay the same. So we're getting fewer people contacting us to sell their house, and so that's a downside. We're getting fewer leads. That's just the way it is. And everybody's getting fewer leads in every market that I've talked to. No matter how they get leads, it's fewer. But our percentages are about the same. We certainly have less competition. This house I looked at yesterday, the other competitor on the house, I know the guy. That hasn't happened in years, but enough people have left the market that we're kind of down to the crew we had 15 years ago. And so if our numbers haven't changed, I'm thinking it's as easy to buy a house now as it was before. We just have less opportunity. But no, we're making deals.
Yep. What do you think there are any opportunities presenting themselves in 2024? And an example may be more foreclosure or short sale. I've seen a couple of short sales last week, and I don't, I thought it went a long time without really noticing short sales, and so. Do you think there's any opportunities being presented that are unique and that you guys are thinking about?
We expect short sales to pick up. We don't know if they will, but like you, we've started to see a few. There's a couple in our office that are short sale certified, so that's a possibility. Foreclosures, surprisingly, I haven't seen an increase in them yet, and I don't know why. I just know that I haven't, but I expect it. We are certainly getting more calls from people who have virtually no equity in their house and need to sell. Mm-hmm. So that's a problem that needs to be solved. and that can be solved in a couple different ways. But yeah, I expect, I do expect short sales and foreclosures, because think about it. We've got a pretty good job market right now, and in Texas is expected to continue. But what if a certain area of Texas experiences a bunch of job losses, or a certain state? What if Indiana, for example, goes through a bit of a recession and people start losing their jobs? And absolutely, because we're talking, people who bought a house at the top of the market, and the appreciation is just not there. And it takes so long to sell that you probably can't get it sold before it's time for foreclosure.
Mm-hmm. Hey, Deb, real quick, I read an article. There's $1.3 trillion in credit card debt. And also the number of individuals that have fallen behind on those credit cards is ticking up every single month. And all that credit was used the last couple of years. People were buying groceries, putting gas in their car. So they've maxed out on their credit cards. They can't make their payments. And what do you think is going to happen the next year or two? It's inevitable. But, going back to the foreclosures, the distress, they will tick up without a doubt.
Yeah. Few people know this about me. I like cars. I'm into cars, but I actually follow the car market as kind of a precursor, indicator of things before they would hit our market. And certainly car repossessions are way up. And so I think you're right, Mike. If you look at credit cards and cars and things like that, those are the things where you might see the pain before somebody it hits their house, Mm-hmm. But that's a good point, because after a few years of high inflation, we burned up all the COVID money that was in the bank, and then they just started switching to the credit card.
Yep.
Wow.
And yet people have to find a place to live, right? Yeah.
You got to have a place to live. Any other, I don't want to steer this whole thing. One other thought I had, and I don't know if you want to go into it, or maybe there's something else you'd rather go into. I know that, as the funding environment changed, you guys started looking at some other options. And one of the things you did was you created a fund, right?
Right.
I don't know, it's probably could be a whole meeting just talking about how you did that, but what kind of fund is it, and how are you going to use it, and to fuel your business?
Well, to give you a little bit of setup, I love big economics. I went to a Federal Reserve Bank meeting here in Dallas a couple of weeks ago just for fun. I had no reason to be there. I just went because I like that stuff. And the problem is, you can get presented with a lot of useless data, and it doesn't help you. But the numbers that Mike was telling us about, that's helpful data. And in general, though, here in Texas, and again, this is a local thing, but here in Texas, economy is quite good, and people are moving here. 400,000 a year in 2021, 400,000 a year in 2022, probably about the same in 2023, and the forecast is 350,000 in 2024. And there's a housing shortage. It's just no two ways about it. There is a housing shortage. So that's fact number one. Fact number two is interest rates really went up, and quickly. It wasn't so much the rate they went to, it's the rapidness, the acceleration. It's never been seen before, and people get really spooked when they see things they haven't seen. Smart people get spooked. And so what do smart people do? Well, if they work at banks, they start pulling back on the credit. And so this has created some unpleasant circumstances for a lot of people, us included. And Will and I was talking with our accountant, and our accountant was relaying an experience, of a friend of his in Milwaukee, another friend in Chicago. Why don't you just create your own fund? Well, go to the SEC and get permission and all that? He goes, yeah, absolutely. There's lawyers that do it. So that's what we did. 506C fund. We have two of them, a Reg D and a Reg S. And here's the purpose. We know that housing sales are slow. In general, they're slow. And we know that rental units are in short supply. We want to keep more units for rentals. But the traditional way that we do business, and the way most people do business, is you get private money or hard money, you take down the house, there's closing costs associated with that, and then when it's time to refi, no matter whose product you're using, there's closing costs associated with that, there's appraisals, there's uncertainty. So you have two transactions and costs associated with those transactions. And it's just a lot. So, and we've had a great, I'm surprised because we're not fund people, okay? We don't speak fund. We're not BlackRock. We're not even Black Pebble. We're just nothing. We're real estate guys with a fund. And we don't speak the language, but we know solid rental returns when we see them. And we've had a pretty decent reception for, the people we've talked to. And the idea behind it is to create a fund that allows investors to have a really good, solid return, better than they would get with a similar, stable, non-market adjustable product, better than money market, better than a lot of these funds, better than bonds. But it gives us a lower cost of borrowing and more flexibility. We both win, and it's a way to build a rental portfolio because if you think about it, in any traditional business like ours, you have to flip a certain number of houses to keep the cash flow, to keep everyone paid, as you don't make the quick money off the rentals. And so we'll see how it works. I can tell you this, we got a really good lawyer. It took us 4 referrals to get there, but we got a great lawyer who set up the paperwork for us. And once you get the paperwork set up, then you have to publicize the fund. That's where it gets a little harder because you're asking people to consider doing this with a portion of their savings or retirement instead of that. So why would I want to do this instead of that? And people want to know. And in the multifamily space, it's just riddled with these syndicators. Some are great, some are not so great. But I think what sets us apart and anyone that's in our We Buy Houses family is we primarily deal with single family homes, which means our risk is distributed, which means that we can dump the low performers quickly and easily and replace them with better performers. And you can't do that if you have a $5 million apartment building. You're stuck with that apartment building until you find someone who buys it. And typically the numbers on those multifamily syndicates rely on rising rents, and they rely on a rising value. And we don't rely on either of those. Stable rents, stable value, we're all still making money. So we'll see how it works, Deb. We'll report back, and happy to talk to anyone who's considering it.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Well, awesome. I'm going to open it up and just see if anybody else has any questions. We're not trying to keep you here all day long and interrogate you, but it's just always awesome to get a little bit more of an insight into what you guys are doing over there. You've got Will is a big asset for you. I know that, having that. How do you kind of view your partnership with Will? Is kind of one of you the head and one of you the heart, or is it? How would you describe the? That's how I think of me and Jeremy. I'll let you decide which one's the head and the heart. But how do you view your partnership?
I don't know how to view it, actually. It's in fact, it's almost too good because it's almost like we don't need to talk because we just kind of do our thing and we know what the other is going to do. So I have to force myself to, oh man, I need to check in with Will, and he needs to check in with me. And we both have, I don't worry about his end. He didn't worry about my end. But essentially the way it works is I'm responsible for the buying and the selling, the administration. He's responsible for the construction. And indeed, having an operations guy who knows construction and is technically oriented is a great benefit because we don't have to rely on outside electricians, outside plumbers, outside foundation people. They're all our own people. And that's a great benefit. Now, with that benefit comes some overhead. So it's give and take. But at least we're not held hostage by a cranky subcontractor who's got 8 projects going at the same time with the same 2 people. At least we don't have that issue. So Will and I met in 2017. Back then I owned a small office building in downtown Arlington where we had a co-working space, and he was a fiber optic engineer renting an office.
I didn't know that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's how we met. Yeah, he comes from the world of fiber optics and data centers and big data and stuff. So, he handles the operations. That's essential, because if we didn't have that, our costs would be higher and our margins would be less. It's just that simple.
Yeah, absolutely.
I would tell you one thing that's interesting, though. Even though he's the operations guy, he is more the risk taker than I am, which is odd. It's a really odd combination. I am risk adverse, and he has to slap me into, come on, man. I know it's new. Give it a shot. It's different than what you'd think. I'm the follow the procedures guy. He's the more risk-friendly guy, and it works out quite nicely. And then we've taken on a third board member, and this third board member, his role, other than common sense that comes with years of experience, is just if there's a tie, then he's the tiebreaker.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's a secret to your success, I think, is in that partnership right there. So
agreed.
I would basically just want to see, is there anybody that has a question for Joel? I think you can just say it if you have it. Let me check the chat. Okay, all right. The AI started leaving. See, when your meeting runs a little long, the AIs, they just go ahead and leave. You'd think they would just stick around, because, like, what do they got to do? Like, they got to maybe be at a different meeting. I don't know. But, yeah, I'm not... Mike, you got any closing thoughts or questions for Joel?
Yeah, I'm just wondering, Joel, when you're walking, this is just kind of a on-site question. When you're walking around the house counterclockwise, right? Anyway, but when you're walking around the house, is the seller with you and you're sort of pointing things out and making some, do they know that you're coming across some issues? So to give, you have to be subtle about it. You don't want to fall on the ground and, start kicking, but do you let them know that there's some issues that you're going to be dealing with in a subtle manner?
Yes. Great question. And we're getting into a sales-oriented question. I know there's people better than me to answer this, but I'll tell you what I do. So you ever walk over to a friend's house and you walk in and it just smells like a dog. And you go, whew. Well, they don't smell it. They live there. They don't know.
Yeah.
Ooh, man, it's a little ripe in here, buddy.
How many dogs do you have?
Yeah. And it's the same thing with my own house, my own office, A perfect example, one of the trucks we use in our business, I don't know. I love this truck, man. I've been using it for a long time. I'm the primary driver, and I happened to run across a picture of it from 4 years ago thinking, holy cow, this thing's looking rough. I didn't notice it. So it's the same thing with houses. You know what? It may be a little beat up and maybe a lot beat up, but people don't want to hear it from you, So
right.
I believe in following the lead of the seller. I believe in letting the seller take a half a step ahead of me. And if they don't, then I'll stay a half a step ahead of them. So if the seller gives me a tour, I'm happy to have the tour. I'm grateful. I'll ask questions. I'll listen. But I'm going to do my own tour when I'm done. I know I've got a checklist and a spreadsheet here, but I want to make sure I don't miss anything. So I'll follow their lead. And yes, I've got a flashlight, and if I see cracks in the walls or whatever, I'll shine it. I won't say anything. I'll just shine it, So I see it, and so they know I saw it. But, a lot of the houses we look at are in such bad condition that they apologize to me for it. So, but, the basic rule of thumb is if they want to take the lead, I let them take the lead. I'll do my own afterwards, and I'll make sure they know exactly what the problems are without really telling them. And sometimes they'll volunteer information like, well, my brother Bubba can fix that foundation for $4,000, and I'll say, well, you better get Bubba over here and get on it, and then list the house. I'll list it for you or list it with somebody else. Well, Bubba's an alcoholic. He really can't do anything. Oh, okay, well, there we go, right?
Yeah.
Because if you think about it, going into the weeds on a specific item of the house, I've never had any good come from that. I've tried it, and I either get an argument over how much it costs to fix or that it isn't that bad. I don't know, Mike. I don't even go down that trail.
No, I love it. I mean, that's why I wanted to get your input, and see how you handled it with the room, this beautiful chartreuse color that they're in love with, or the things that they'll openly volunteer to you and let them dig their own hole, so to speak. That's why I was asking.
Well, if only paint was the biggest issue, but to that point, I will make a comment to them and say, you're going to love this house when we're done, and if you want to go through it, if you want me to send pictures of it to you, you're going to love it. And many times they take us up on the pictures. Seldom do they walk through it, but I explain to them, look, you may not approve of everything we're going to do. I'm not sure I'd buy a house from me painted these colors, but we know what people want. They want this color, they want this flooring, they want those cabinets, they want this granite. We just give people what we know sells, and they go, yeah, I know. Every house we look at looks the same. I go, right. All of ours looks the same too. Our guys don't even have a choice as what they get from Lowe's. The truck backs up to the door and delivers it to them. They have no choice in paint color, nothing. Yes, it's boring, and it works, and they get it. So I kind of put that in there without them.
Yeah, I love it. That's great answer. Love it.
Hey, I had also kind of a just tying up loose ends question about given that days on market are longer, where is the adjustment made in your calculation? Is it on like that factor, like 0.7, 0.65 or whatever, knowing that days on market are longer? Is that just kind of how you?
Yeah, in fact, here's how it works. If the total hold time is going to be less than 30 days, it's a 0.8. We multiply times 0.8. It's never less than 30 days. If it's between 30 and 60 days, it's 0.75. If it's 60 to 90 days, it's 0.7. 90 to 120 is 0.65. 120 to 180 is 0.6. And over 180 is 0.5. So yes, the adjustment for days on market comes in that modification factor, that discount. So it's after repair value times, say 0.65 minus whatever it comes with for repairs.
Yep. Do you care about or follow things like months supply or anything that's kind of more inventory oriented?
I love those numbers, but I don't use them when I'm buying a house. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Because month supply in Tarrant County is wonderful, but it doesn't help me for a house in 76016. And if I knew that answer, it wouldn't help me with a house on Saddle Ridge Drive. So I have to go by days on market. But the months of inventory is very important. I love following all that stuff, but that's the bigger question. You have this macro information. How much of that do you use in the decision to price this house?
Yeah. One of the things we'll do on the leads that come from Realtor.com is we will look at basically just figure out how many homes are for sale, how many homes sold in the last 12 months, compute month supply, and usually it's either like well below 4, so it's a pretty tight active market, or it's way above 4, maybe 8. So it's almost like we're just saying, oh look, a really slow, like that market's got 14 months of supply, where this one has 2.
But for the Realtor.com leads, that's perfect, isn't it? Because your people don't have time to spend the 30 minutes to run comps on every Realtor.com. And furthermore, they don't have MLS access to do so. So here's what I like about a Realtor.com leads. When you know what you have an idea of what's reasonable, what isn't. And then we get the lead, we talk to them on the phone, and we run the real numbers, and they're generally not that far off. but you have no other better way of filtering it, in my opinion.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, we're going to start to wind this up. This is, like I said, it was our first, well, number one, Joel, awesome job.
Yeah, great job, Joel.
I love talking to you. I feel like we could just hang out for the next 3 hours. And that'd be a really long show. But our attempt here was just to kind of get started on, where we could do a once a week thing, maybe interview one of you guys and kind of learn more about your business, maybe have somebody come that's a vendor or something, or, whatever. I think we want to try doing some new things with the community. And the other idea was to start to bring people in the community. Like, we have the core community of We Buy Houses, and then the larger community of people that we know and we work with, and people that may want to be even thinking about We Buy Houses and that kind of thing. So that's why we did this. This first show, I think, is going to be a little clunky because first time I'm using Google Meet for this, first time I'm using this recording software. I think I did about 8 things wrong. For the first 4 minutes, I couldn't figure out how to make your face big. And so anybody that's watching the video is probably seeing me going, click, how do you make the face big? But yeah, Josh slacked me. I had to press a pen, and your face got big. So we're going to figure this out, and these things are going to be better as we go forward, I do believe. I will kind of leave you guys that are seeing this. If you're watching the recording, sorry I did all those weird things at the beginning. And then if you want to join us live and you're not in We Buy Houses, just send an email to live@webuyhouses.com, and we'll get you registered and send you the link to the next one of these, which is going to be next Thursday at 2 p.m. And we don't have our agenda set for that one yet, but it's going to be great, I'm sure. So with that, I'm just going to say live@webuyhouses.com if you want to find out more about these discussions and join them. And then I'm going to let Mike kind of say, what if somebody's watching and they're interested in webuyhouses.com? What should they do, Mike?
Yeah, look, if someone's interested in licensing our brand in their particular market, like Joel has done, I'm happy to speak with them, see if it's available. They can email me. I'm easy to find, mike@webuyhouses.com, or you can even call me directly at 817-435-4446, and we'll talk about it. If We Buy Houses not an option, there may be another option. So love to speak with you.
Awesome. Hey, Joel, thanks again, buddy. Good to spend some time with you.
Thank you, Joel. Great job, sir.
Have a good afternoon.
Adios, guys.
All right, with that, we'll let you guys go. Y'all have a great rest of your day. Take care.
Thanks, Dad. Thanks, Mike.
You got it.